My MP, Mark Jenkinson, has written to a couple of friends of mine who'd contacted him about Dominic Cummings' clear breach of lockdown guidelines. The letter was word for word identical in both cases, even where it bore the signs of two different authors, partly using contractions and split infinitives, for example, and partly not. Partly written with short, punchy, almost legally drafted sentences, and partly using more flowing and much less concise prose. I strongly suspect that at least part of his letter was written by lawyers at Conservative Party HQ, with the instruction given to constituency MPs to personalise it a bit before sending it out. Anyway, let's go through it, and let's just critique the points Jenky and his minders in Downing Street have made. Dear constituent, thank you for writing to me to express your thoughts and feelings about Dominic Cummings. Do you really think I care what you think about anything? I understand that emotions are running high on this subject. You're angry. Why should I care? I appreciate the sacrifices that the British public has made during this extremely challenging time. The plebs have had to miss their bingo. Who gives a shit? Many of us have done the same. I missed a family funeral, as did Mr. Cummings. Go on, be sympathetic. That way you'll miss how damning this situation really is, not just for Dom, but also for Boris and maybe even me. This week, we have heard him speak about his reasoning. Dom chatted shit from the Rose Garden a few days ago. As he was cross-examined by the media for more than an hour, let's pretend that this perfectly reasonable set of questions by press that the Tory party had invited and carefully stage-managed was like an interrogation in court, or worse. That will make you think Mr. Cummings has been unfairly treated, won't it, stupid peasant that you are? Some people will accept his clear and reasoned explanation, and others will not. Reasonable, clear-thinking people will believe him. Biased people with an axe to grind won't. People will make up their own minds based on what he said. Mr. Cummings set out clearly the exceptional circumstances surrounding the care of his wife and small child which led to this judgment call. Actually, there was nothing exceptional about parents worrying about childcare if they both get ill. Parents across the land have been and still are in exactly that position without driving the length of England during lockdown. But you're too stupid to understand that. You must be. There's a reasonable chance you voted for me. I accept that explanation. I'm clear thinking and reasonable, aren't you? I also think the media reaction has been at times hysterical. Let's blame the media for reporting what he did rather than Dom himself for doing it. It's taken on the character of a witch hunt. Yeah, let's do that. It's also quite clear that there's been a significant amount of misreporting around the subject. I'm not in a position to tell you which bits were misreported because Tory HQ hasn't decided which way to spin it yet. And Mr. Cummings' account allowed us a chance to cut through some of the more politically motivated attacks. Let's pretend that papers like The Telegraph, The Times and The Mail, not to mention The Sun, are actually hard-left Trotskyite rags instead of hard-right papers that we Tories can usually rely on to peddle our lies. I think we can all agree that the scenes from outside his house over the last few months were abhorrent. That's why Mr. Cummings never reported it to anyone until after the shit hit the fan. It came across quite clearly that he was fearing for the safety of his wife and child. I know that's not at all clear, but you'll believe it if I stick it in a letter with my MP letterhead on it. After all, it still impresses me, so I'm sure it'll do wonders for you proles. Demonstrably false reporting is how we end up in that position. Sorry, I still can't demonstrate what was false. Tory party lawyers haven't decided that yet. First and foremost, he's not a special advisor. He's a father and a husband. Actually, he's both, but you know what I mean. Or maybe you don't. In which case, he's not a special advisor, so leave him alone, you nasty bully. And I think he did what most of us would have in the same situation. I'd have disrespected all my constituents too. I would walk to the ends of the earth for my children. I know, it's not about me, it's about Dom. But if I can make you think I've got compassion, then maybe I can get you to think that Dommy has as well. Should I have been placed in the same situation where there was family childcare over being placed with friends, I would probably have done the same thing. Don't ask me any questions about this. When the presence of family and friends within 3 miles of Dom's London address come out, we need to deal with the facts. Like the fact that the Prime Minister had said that if you think you have the virus, you must not leave your home for any reason, but stay at home and seek advice online instead. He's no different to any of us in that he's expected to follow the guidance. Guidance which you'd better stick to moving on or you'll get prosecuted, unlike Dommy. Which was drafted to allow for such circumstances. If you think you have the virus, you must not leave your home for any reason, but stay at home and seek advice online instead. What he did was within the law, within the guidance, and had been clearly set out as acceptable in the press conference by the Deputy Chief Medical Officer just a few days before. If you think you have the virus, you must not leave your home for any reason, but stay at home and seek advice online instead. The drive to Barnard Castle, it's easy to be critical in hindsight. He risked himself, his family and other road users because he drove while being impaired, at least potentially. Try using that as a defence for driving whilst temporarily blind or drunk in charge of a motor vehicle if you kill someone, and see how far it gets you. I wish I was blessed with the foresight of some journalists. He made a judgment call. He made a judgment call on a short drive prior to a 6-hour drive back to London the following day, which was not strictly against guidelines. I think we'd have to walk a mile in his shoes to fully understand that decision. The circumstances are quite obviously different to those other cases we've seen in the news, and there are many other cases that the press has quite clearly applied different rules. Like what? It's time to move on. Oh no, it's not. We haven't even started yet. Yours sincerely, Mark Jenkinson, MP.